of the community colleges in New Jersey, about 14 of us are using Ellucian's Colleague product. Colleague is moving toward a software as a service version, and we in New Jersey as a consortium are fortunate enough to have been offered the opportunity to allow Ellucian to basically make a SaaS version of their software to fit New Jersey community colleges. And we'll talk a little bit later, and Hanem and Gail will be better versed at talking about the technical aspects of that. And Veronica and I will talk about the financial implications of a system like that. But before we get into the presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of background about the New Jersey Community College Joint Purchasing Consortium. That's an official body that was formed among the community colleges through the offices of the council. And we exist to facilitate joint procurement among the 19 community colleges. And we've been doing this for quite some time, maybe 10 years or so. But in the last couple of years, there's been a real emphasis on doing more together. As we've seen shrinking budgets, shrinking resources, we're trying to do more with our dollars and really focusing on how we can be more cooperative and save everybody some money. So some of the things that we've been doing for a long time include utilities. We do a natural gas consortium buy. We do an electricity buy. And those things have saved the colleges a lot of money. But now we're starting to get into the things that are a little more difficult to jointly procure. And certainly a software system is one of them, because the way we all operate is the same but different. So to get us all from that model to a consistent model that would work in a SaaS environment is a challenging thing to take on, but something that the presidents are very supportive of, and all of the community colleges have the goal of better service to the students as well as saving money in mind. So this is a project that we think will take several years to come to fruition, but one that we are really working hard to make work for all of the 19 colleges. This is where we are with our ERPs today. As I said, all of the colleague institutions are on the right, and they are the institutions that are being asked to participate in this consortium. Down the road, there may be another consortium for banner institutions, but Gail might better be able to speak to that. And we are also hoping that Salem's going to come over into our column on the other side. So there's a lot of potential here.
So part of what you're looking at now is the landscape for us today. And as you see, many of us joined or bought that product, start using it at a different point in time. And that's where some of the complexities come to be. Each one of us is really contracting or negotiating with Ellucian on their own. And we are really at varying degrees of implementation today. Even those that started maybe in 97, 96, they might not be the most advanced in implementation than some of the newcomers. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Now, Ellucian allowed us to be able to modify their code. And that's going to be one of the things we'd like to share with you today. How has that been good and also bad? And we want to really reach out to a level that will be sustainable for all of us.
So why should we consider going to a cloud or SaaS model? Because in the long run, there'll be a total lower cost of operation. So all of us now, today, we've not only invested in the initial procurement of the systems and each of the modules inherent in that system, we now pay an annual maintenance fee. And depending on how much of the system you use, your fees, our fees all vary very much. But in the SaaS system, what we are envisioning is a total cost of the system, which would then be divided among the community colleges in a fashion that is similar to the state funding formula. Veronica and I may be the only ones who are familiar with that, but our state aid is divided up based on a formula that gives a base level of funding to all of the 19 colleges, and then the other piece of that is divided up based on enrollment. So that model has worked well for us for many, many years, and we really hope to be able to implement something similar for this system. And it would also help us modernize. As Hatem was saying, all of us are using different functionality within the system. Some of us, I'll say this quietly, some of us even own modules that we don't use because they're too hard to set up and we don't have the resources to make them work the way we would like to. So stepping into a SaaS model would get us all the latest version of the software and help us all adopt business practices that are working in other institutions without having to go through a very long and painful, sometimes painful implementation of each module on our own. And that's really one of the primary drawbacks in my mind of the way we use the software today. Every time we buy something new, we, number one, pay for it. Then we pay for consulting to help us set it up. But it's not just that, it's the staff time it takes to set it up and put all of the business practices in place to work with that software setup. So every time we do that, it's very intensive and time-consuming and costly. So if we can share those practices among ourselves, in my mind, that's tremendous savings right off the bat.
So definitely security, and especially nowadays, everybody hears about all those malicious attacks that many institutions, some of them are much larger than education institutions like ours, happen on a daily basis. So one of the major jobs for any IT shop on campus is to make sure our data is secure. Now, we're going to be moving some of our really crown jewels to the cloud, and we're going to entrust Illusion to run it for us. So Illusion has to really put security boundaries around our systems and data, make sure it's protected. They're going to have the bandwidth and the resources to do it better than each individual school by themselves, right? Because as they build a SaaS software in the cloud for us, they're going to have multiple schools, they're going to have more resources to work with that. Now, I don't want to minimize the security. It's not going to be relegated or delegated to Illusion. We're still going to be responsible, but I understand, and it's true, because we've been doing a lot of this with other companies already. We have many of our resources or systems already in the cloud. Email is one of them. The LMS, or the learning management system, for us is another one. The portal for a few years for us as well. So still responsibility is ours to make sure our data is secure, but we're going to have a much better probability of protecting our data with the help of a company like Illusion, and also multiple schools working together on the security framework. And beyond that, the standardization across the sector. Going back, our ability to customize the ERP, our enterprise resource planning system colleague was one, really is a hindrance for us to take on the next upgrade. Because everything you customize, now you own it. You have to make sure it still works with the new version. And a lot of us spend a lot of time on a monthly basis. As a matter of fact, in Ocean, we do software updates every month. And every month, we have to go back and visit some of the customization that we decided we want to have in our system, redo them again, test them again, make sure they work in the new upgrade that we just did. Us now moving to a standard in which almost no customization. We're going to be talking about something called configuration instead. So you will be able to still do some of your business processes, but they're going to be done in a manner in which, when any upgrade that we do with Illusion, your way of using the system will not be impacted with the upgrade. Hence, you can do your enhancements much faster. And beyond that, let's say we have all of us aspire to own the next module Illusion is working on. All of us, everybody in the consortium, we're going to decide what the workflow is going to look like. We agree this is what we're going to adopt, and it will be one time. All of us benefit from that implementation instead of 14 of us doing it every time by themselves.
What we're talking about is a journey an evaluation period to get from where you're at today to the SaaS cloud model. And it's all about economies of scale. The quicker you can get there, the more you're going to start realizing those economies. But there are stages to get there, and it is they're not easy push-the-button stages either. So let me start with the first part. One is to get organized. And right now, even having this meeting today, it's all about information sharing. The governance piece is all about identifying people on your campuses to be champions, and that will give the feedback and be the person that would have the communication flow between your campus, your president, and your the team that you would be working on. So this spring, the step of getting a governance team together to work on this, with the presidents being at the highest level for decision making, is critical. This group will be tasked with the best of breed models. So all of your institutions have best of breed for either financial aid or human resource processing, or it might be how you do direct deposits for your paychecks. So that inventory will have to be taken. You'll figure out, it won't be 100% of the processes that have to be best of breed. It would be the top, 10, 20, 30, whatever you all decide needs to be the same, the baseline, so that you can benefit from that. It could be that you're operating degree audit the same way. It could be that you're, or a piece of it the same way. So you would agree upon in the governance team which are the best of breed and who can we learn from, which institutions can we learn from. So that's critical. That's the first decision points, is to get that consortium together. Second stage is just to get your institution ready to go to SaaS. Two main pieces there. The institutions need to be on the SQL Server database. Many of you are still on the Unidata database, so that's a step. It could be done early, it could be done late, but it needs to be done before you get to SaaS. The second one is just to take your customizations, inventory them, analyze them, and start preparing to retire those. Now, there's functionality within the colleague product that replaces those, and maybe that hasn't been evaluated recently, and it should, because then you're not, maintaining those. You're getting off of those. So that's a step. That middle step is probably one of the most time-consuming, and you should be starting to think about that now. And I'm sure your IT staff and leadership is already thinking about that. They're meeting with Haddam next week. And we're going to have an Ellucian employee there, a vice president there, to answer questions on that. The third stage is actually when you're there. It is a subscription model, different from what you're doing today, whereas when the software products, when we release the software products, everybody gets them. So instead of making small steps to purchase and align and implement new products, you're making a quantum leap. It's not even a jump, it's a quantum leap. So we really want you organized within your institutions and with the governance so that you can adopt more quickly. See, right now, everybody's adopting at different rates, and it's not helping you by doing these implementations on your own. You could be learning, and that's what the Central Support Center is about, is that we're going to have that as a central area for you to ask your questions, help you get there.
The question is, what happens to an institution who already decided to buy a new module, right, and already upgraded to that? Good question.
Right. From what I understand, in the SaaS model, all of you are going to be at different levels before you enter the SaaS entry into the SaaS consortium. For an individual institution, at times there will be credits. For as you know, the SaaS product is not finished, it's not built, we don't have contracts yet. So for a consortium such as the New Jersey Consortium, those questions have not been entertained yet.
Let me add one more thing. That one of the things that the governance committee will be working on, Gail articulated that we're going to be working on best in breed, right? We're also going to be deciding on what are the modules that are going to be in the base product. Right now, I might have, like I said, compared to the other 14 schools, I might have 10 modules. Another school might have 5. Another one might be 15. You follow me? So once we enter that consortium, it's going to be subscription-based, meaning you gonna agree, the consortium gonna agree to enter on that level. So if you already invested some money, most likely, you're not gonna get that money credited back. I'm sorry, Gail, but I think that's how it's gonna be. Once you enter the consortium, you're gonna be at that level, whatever that level we decided and we agreed we're gonna work with.
Right. You're actually in a subscription model, so we will be on a schedule to implement the updates. And everyone would agree, and everybody knows that on Tuesday, the 14th of July, and every quarter or whatever, it's going to be on a routine basis that the upgrades are implemented. So your user community will be testing. Maybe there'll be a week of testing, and then will be implemented the next week. So it won't be asking the users to please get in the room and you're delayed. No, it's going to be like you do for Salesforce or other products that you own today that are in the cloud. It just gets done. And that's how everybody keeps up with the pace. You will have a single code, just like Adam referred to. You're going to agree to that code, code base, and those best practices will be implemented with those code-based systems. So as an example, Ocean owns the recruitment product. Several of the institutions own that, but we're not sure if that's going to be, for everyone. So that's one of the agreements you'll make. Is that a benefit to you? Is it a benefit for everybody? And you'll agree upon that. And then the bottom line is to improve performance, obviously, whether it's security, whether it's hardware, whatever it is, we're trying to go forward and make improvements. And that's why we're here today. Next, I'm just going to talk about some challenges you might expect in taking the journey. Some of the institutions have to convert from Unidata to SQL. Those are two different databases. Unidata is outdated. It is an old database. Lucien, we made the decision many years ago not to stay on that database because it was restricting us from putting out code and putting out products quicker to you. So that is the wave. To date, about 65%, 70% of our clients are now on SQL, so we're hoping that you all get there sooner than later. It is about a year or 18-month process. Next, defining the best of breed. That could take time, a lot of time. As you know, you've all been on very large, complex projects before. The technology is typically not the technology that keeps you from making progress. It's decision-making, okay? I think we all know that. Make a decision and move forward. You will have a test environment, so the sandbox. So you can be assured that you will be in a test environment testing the best of breeds. And then maybe if that's not the best of breed, so we need to use best of breed from another institution. You will have that time frame, and we'll be on a schedule, and you can be assured that we want everything tested, but we want you to make decisions sooner than later. The governance can be a challenge if you have turnover or if people who signed up don't show up. So we want champions. We prefer not to have all IT people on this governance. It's not going to work. We want user community on the serving on the governance committees. And then just changing staffing models could be an issue. And then, of course, it's just the migration itself. I mean, these are testing the decision-making and then the time it takes to test the modules once you made those decisions is typically the hardest effort level. It's not really the software.
Right, so how much are we paying today? I think that's why we're here. One of the opportunities, obviously, is to get some cost savings. Currently, it's $4.5 million for the 14 colleges. The one thing that I look at is how much of those dollars come from tuition payments, and it's actually about 3% for Hudson County. So as enrollments go down, this gives us an opportunity, to have some cost savings so that, we can put our dollars where we feel is going to be best for the college going forward. This is a support system. This is something that we need every day. This isn't the bells and whistles, the sexy things. This allows us to do our job. And what we're trying to do is get the best in breed, best practice. But I think that we want to do it collaboratively with all of the 14 colleges. And like Gail had just said, I don't think it's going to be best just having IT sitting around making the recommendations. It's got to be the people that are actually at the front, the users, that are doing the job on a daily basis. And we have 14 colleges out there, and we're all doing it all different ways. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to move forward. And of course, being the CFO, the most important thing is the savings that we can get through the consortium. And I think I will go back to, we talked about credits, and if we had purchased something earlier, I think that's all negotiable. I don't know if, Gail, you said, I don't think anything's a done deal right now. So if you have something, we're working towards, benefiting everybody. I don't think that anyone wants to do something that's not right for the whole consortium. So we're in this together, so, it makes sense.
How can you participate in the governance committee?
Well, the first level of the governance is the president's club, so to speak. And I know the business officers are also going to be involved in that governance committee, as well as the IT support. I would think that the recommendations from within the cabinet.
To form the central governance committee, we envision down the road that there's going to be many working groups that get involved on the decision-making for individual modules. But the presidents will be the overall decision makers, but there will be one central governance committee with one individual appointed by each president. So if you'd like to be a part of that, I think the person to ask is your president.
Well, I think we just talked about the annual fees and central support team. Again, we're looking to pay one price, and as Sarah had mentioned, with regards to how we would allocate back to the 14 different colleges. That's kind of a formula. Again, that would come from how we get our allocations from the state, which is credit-based. So it's driven by enrollment, which kind of makes sense. That's what drives your revenue. So obviously, those who have the higher amounts of credit would be supporting the majority of it based on a percentage. So really just like a percent to total. And I think that's kind of the cleanest way to do it. But I think that we're all open to other opinions on how we would want to allocate that expense.
So one of the things that is underway now is that as a sector, we have made a request to the Secretary of Higher Education in New Jersey for some funding for this project, since in the long run, we think we will be able to pay for the SAS system using the resources that we already use for our current systems. But we are requesting some assistance, financial assistance, during the time that we're trying to create the system, and might have to have some duplication of services and have to divert some staff into creating the system. So that request is out there. We'll see what happens. But there are also going to be other ways that we'll be able to save money on our campuses with this new model. We will no longer have to house colleague on servers on our individual campuses. All of that hardware and associated maintenance will go away. There'll be no more work on campus associated with patches that Haddam referred to earlier. And we think as this evolves, that most of the work will be done by a central support team for one large system, rather than having that support team duplicated on each and every campus. Of course, staffing decisions are always up to the individual institution, and this consortium is not going to make those decisions. But we also see that there's always going to be a need for IT support on campus. So we don't want to look at this as something that should be feared. We know even at Ocean, we have many products on our campus that are not colleague. So those things are not going away. And many services, there's network and help desk and all kinds of things that are IT related that are not colleague. So we're still going to all have a need for IT on our own campuses.
And even the colleague specialists today can be reassigned to do other things, so they can help the registrar office, the business offices to do their business even better. Things that we are not afforded the resources to do today because we spend a lot of time maintaining the system and not paying attention to processes and helping the front offices. So I think we can realign our staff to advance our procedures and policies even further.
So the big question is, how much is this new cloud system going to cost? And as we've said, we don't know that answer yet, but we do realize that every college is going to need to know how much it is going to cost before they can reasonably commit to the new system. So during the developmental stage, we are not asking for any financial commitment from any college. We want to have these governance committees start to do their work, and then once we have decided what we want our product to look like, then we're going to go out to Ellucian and get the pricing, right? Because Ellucian can't price something that they don't know. If they don't know what it looks like, they can't price it. So it's kind of a horse and cart thing, you know, which is going to come first. So we've decided as a consortium that the colleges will do that upfront work. We will kind of take control of our own destiny and decide what our system is going to look like, and then ask Ellucian to price it. Certainly that will be a negotiation, and certainly there can be some give and take on both sides. Maybe we'll ask for things that we would love to have but can't afford. You know, maybe we then look at making some of those things not a part of the base, but something that additional that various colleges can purchase if they wish to. So all of those things have to be worked out, but I think because we have worked together, the 19 colleges so closely as a consortium on other purchasing things, that really gives us the relationships and the structure that we can begin to take on this really massive and important project without a financial commitment from anyone. And all of us have a very long relationship with Ellucian as well, and that's just as important, I think. And in the end, every college will wind up paying Ellucian individually, just like we do now.
There'll obviously be the governance at the president's level, and then a committee underneath, which will be sector-wide. People have from student services, financial aid, all those important modules that we need to have on campus. Again, starting to build it as a best practice. Some of the campuses had bought modules, like Sarah had said earlier, that aren't using them. And some are, and who's to say the ones that are they getting the best out of it? We talked about customization. To me, I think of those as a workaround because we're not getting what we want. Maybe these new versions that are out there, again, we walk away from the customization and we're at a higher level to get the level of service that we need for these things. And it is all going to be collaborative. I think people really have to come together and say, you know, how are we going to do this in the most efficient manner? I mean, you don't want to go through 8 steps if you can get it done in 2. And I think that's how we have to look at it, so that the final deliverable will be, this is what we want, price it, and can we afford it? And to me, with the quantity and the economy of scales, it's a no-brainer that it should come in at a lot less than what we're paying now on an individual basis. I mean, that's my motivation to go forward doing this. And I think that's the intention of all, and of course to have a best practice.
So the governance, how we're going to look like. So we now kind of envision how we're going to be. We believe there are going to be a tiered governance system in place. We have the presidents definitely have their own governance committee, and they're going to be helping us cement or agree to the decisions that the core governance committee gonna decide on. And basically the group in the middle right there are charged with 2 main things: defining what's best in breed, how a specific workflow would be working for the sector, and the second one, what should be the modules in the base product that we're gonna be going with RFQ and ask Ellucian to give us pricing. Now, you have to realize, and we're gonna show you in the next slide, Sarah gonna talk to that, is what our vision today of that, the makeup of that middle governance tier. But we understand that even that middle tier will not have all the answers. We have to definitely rely on working groups. So we're going to go to, let's say we're going to be discussing the workflow, how to admit someone to our colleges. We're going to go to those departments that do this day in and day out and help us define how this is going to look like. So all of us, once we agree, this is the workflow we're going to follow, becomes easy for us to adopt first, and then we'll use it in the SAS.
As we've said, we think that this governance committee should have representation from all different areas of the college, business officers, academic people, IR, student services, CIOs. So we are now looking to the presidents of the 14 colleges to determine who they would like to represent them on this committee. And like Hadam said, I think this committee is going to be organizing and finding the right people within their institution to get into the details of all the various modules.
Just another way to show how the governance would work, including the working groups and the feedback ultimately to the presidents.
Yeah, the presidents are very interested in this project, and they want to make sure that they have the final say in whatever decisions are made. And that really will make it easier for the rest of us, because once decisions are made or recommendations are brought up to the president's group, if they're agreed to, then they can be codified and put away, and we can move on to the next thing. So we hope to get this governance committee put together within the next couple of weeks, and it will take at least a year for that committee to do their work, and I think there's going to have to be a lot of overlap during that time. We're not going to have the luxury of working on one module at a time. I don't have a clear sense of the count of modules, but
there are plenty. For example, you can imagine this is what we run our colleges on. This is from admissions all the way to payroll, alumni development, everything that we do on campus. We have some bolt-on external applications, for example, for document imaging, for scheduling our classrooms, but the bulk of our business at the college is really this system. And as Sarah was saying, there is no telling how many modules. There is tons of them, and each one of us, the 14 schools or 19 schools, decided to take a subset. So hopefully we can agree on a system that we all believe will make us efficient and meet all our needs as a consortium, and we'll take it from there.
So the work of the Data Governance Committee is really, really important, and that's really, I think, what we are asking from the colleges at this point. We're not asking for a financial commitment, but we are asking for a real commitment of time and resources.
So the question, once we know what we want to go to, what the SAS model is going to look like, is everybody going to adopt it at the same time, or are we going to have stages?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is we will probably go in cohorts. We have already identified the first cohort to be Ocean, Hudson, and Mercer. And we think that it will be probably a good 18 months before we're ready for that stage.
And I think, Linda, right? Okay, one of the really underlying questions here, when it will make sense. Because if you only have 3 schools or 4 schools entering the SAS, will it be economical for us? Especially, and also for Illusion, that's something we need to work together. The more schools we can get into this, the economy of scales would work, the better pricing and better processing we can end up with. So we hope all 19 schools join this consortium at the end. Can we use this consortium for this ERP system to be the seed or the beginning step for other software consortium across the sector? Excellent question.
Yes, definitely. I think if we can pull this off, then negotiating with other vendors, especially related products, is going to be that much easier. We'll already have buying power behind us. And like I said, we are really working hard in the JPC on a number of other initiatives that are not necessarily technology, but just getting used to the idea of thinking of ourselves as a consortium rather than independent players. And the more we do that, the more it's going to become second nature to negotiate as a group.
I was just going to ask, I mean, you had a chart that showed 14 schools.
Yep.
Have all 14 committed? What does that 14 represent? Is it that they're using the system?
So we haven't so all 19 schools today, all 19 community colleges today are an Eleusian customer of some sort. Eleusian today have multiple products. The majority of us, 14, are using the same product called Colleague. 3 schools, the top left, using Banner, and 1 school today using something called Power Campus, but we believe they might be migrating away from Power Campus to the Colleague side very soon. So, yep, all of us are using the same vendor very much.
All right, so the follow-up question then, shouldn't Ellucian be able to tell us what that breakpoint is to run that, to get that model going?
So this past 2 months, we put together a task force at Ellucian specifically for this project, and we met 8 weeks, meetings every few times per week to identify how would we price this and make it economical for you all and win-win for both. And what we found out, we were trying to do it in let's just take it as a holistic calculation. We ended up having to take 9. So what we did is we picked 9 institutions because each institution is so different with what they purchased from us, and we had to make it fair and equal. So we actually took the FTE, we knew what the numbers were at every institution. We had to take in consideration what you purchased, how much is your maintenance, there were so many factors for us to determine, how large is your IT staff, because if we're going to create a central support unit, then if this institution can let's say, justify 1 or 2 people that would work in the support center, and this one only has 1 person, how does that work? It's a lot of computation to figure out, is this the right thing to do? So we finished that exercise about 3 weeks ago. We haven't even shared it with Haddam yet or Sarah, but we're prepared to. But we need you all to tell us, again, what do you really want? Like, is Recruiter in or out? Or is what's the reporting tool going to be? Ellucian is coming out with a new reporting tool for the SAS, specifically for the SAS, so there's even pieces we're still working on.
So are you saying the minimum is 9?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We had to take a sample. We could have taken 14, but we just had to move forward, and so it would be not so we just picked the top 9 we thought would move first. Yeah, we just had to take a sample, and that's what we did. We picked 9.
One thing I'd like to add that as you so far realize from this conversation that all of us, the 14 schools and the 19 schools, will be putting in significant efforts on the manpower to define things. We actually also ask an Ellucian to match our efforts as well. So even in getting the system defined, Ellucian will be working very closely with us, giving us same resources as much as possible. So we will be negotiating a lot of
Right.
in-kind responses to what we are doing.
Right, we're going to need your input. So we made some assumptions, but we try to get the facts and the figures down. And we called around to some of you and said, how many people are on your IT staff and what are their roles? We had to collect that also. That was one of the last things we collected. We were trying to get a break-even point, just like what you're saying. We do it by timing. So do you break even in year 3 or because you're putting investment into this by moving to some of the institutions have to move to SQL first. So some institutions have to retire a lot of customizations. So we had to figure out where's the break-even point that you're now economies of scale are jumping in.
There are some schools who are similar as far as the technology and also the maturity level of the product. Maybe they're very close to business processes. Let's say we have, for sake of argument, 4 or 5. Will that be enough to get started? Or we need to wait and get everybody's input at the end of the process to see who will be joining the consortium or not.
Exactly. And I had a call with Sarah a few weeks ago, and I said, Sarah, we have the pricing. When do you want us to start revealing it to the CFOs? Can you come down to Fairfax and we have a small group of CFOs together so we can start getting, because we may have made incorrect assumptions. So we need your input. So we decided we would get you all to do the best practices first, so we have a framework, because we made probably too many assumptions. But I'll just give you some examples of what we were wrestling with. Sussex, is anybody here from Sussex County? Okay, fairly new implementation going on. If they move to SaaS in a year, they're going to have an easy, very easy, they're not going to have customization. There's minimal investment for them to move to SQL. They are going to be a winner because they're just now paying subscription fees. But then you take someone like another Camden. Is anybody from Camden here? Okay, Camden is not using our human resources or finance system. They're only using the student system. When they sign up for the SaaS model, they're going to gain because they're going to get it at no charge. I mean, what I'm saying is they're going to get whatever the consortium gets, and they're not going to buy in separately.
The question was, Camden is still on Unidata, and they have a lot of customization. Will Illusion be able to share with Camden the resources they need to invest in to take them to the SaaS or be ready for SaaS?
We know those figures. So if you think about this table here being two phases, there's an upfront, like you mentioned, that to do the effort to get to an entry level to the SaaS. But for Camden, someone like Camden, they're going to have some benefits once they get to that point because they don't have all the software, and the entry into SaaS is much lower. But there is this effort level here. So every institution was different that we selected. It was very different. It was very difficult exercise that we had. And that's why it took us 8 weeks to get to some break-even figures and return on
Right,
investment.
but we also all need to think, no matter how far you are in implementation, or how advanced your systems are, we're still battling every day with how to maintain the system, and it's really taking a lot of our resources. Ideally, yes, I might not win when I join the consortium because I maybe already invested a lot of money in many modules, but efficiency, once I'm in the SaaS, this is when I'm going to start seeing benefits and return on investment.
The business officers as a group are going to be very involved in costing this project. So once we get to the point of having the system defined, then the business officers are going to work together to be able to do those cost comparisons. What are the costs on each individual campus today, and what do they have to look like in the new system in order to make sense for each individual institution?
So the question, if you have an individual institution with a specific customization, nobody else is using, and that's the question. Once they join the SaaS, what happens to that customization? Can they keep it, or it's really gone?
I can answer that. So when you do get to the SaaS model, customizations are not allowed. And so that's why Ellucian, this year and next year, we are working very, very hard to inventory your customizations and to try to put as many into the product as configurations. And you don't have to wait until you go to SaaS. We're going to deliver those throughout the year as we get them. So an example is a transcript. Most of our clients customize their transcript. They add a column, they put 2 fields in. We know for sure we have to put that as a configuration. So when you get that, let's say we get that out in next December, go ahead and implement that and take away your customization. And then you know that when you get to SaaS, you're going to have it again. I mean, it's going to be the same custom configuration.
I'd like to comment on that just quickly. So part of the governance committee will be working on is defining what functionality all consortium members agrees to have. Now, once we decide, it could be the customization you're talking about or something else. Once we decide as a consortium we need this function, Illusion has to make it part of the base product. It's not going to be called customization anymore. But we need to define what are these key things that we want to continue to have in the product once we move to the SaaS. Now, the trick or the how we're going to benefit all is by Illusion eliminating the customization, but they're going to give you what's called configuration in its place. Configuration is a layer that you make that changes in the system that will never be overwritten with any software update. That's where you get the benefit. The question is third-party tools. As we said, there are things outside of the ERP that we all use EMS, Ocean, for example, use R25. The SaaS model will allow you to continue to integrate and interface with third-party tools. The system or the universe for us is so wide, and Illusion, as we understand, will not be able to meet every single need of the institutions, but they're going to give us the tools to interact with whatever third-party tools or systems you would like to continue to use or buy into afterwards.
Right. Those tools, in the past, the tools were interface tools that may have been customized, so you did call that customization, a customization for interface. But within this year, you're going to see rollout of a tool called HEDM, which is Higher Education Data Model, which has, those are the tools with APIs that will be able to map easily, much easily than a customization programmer writing it. I want to say a few minutes on why Ellucian's motivated to help you and why this is important for our company. I've been with Ellucian/Datatel for over 20 years, and I have seen lots of consortiums come together for the same reason. I mean, 20 years ago, people were saying, how can we save money? Everybody's asking how they can save money. So I was around when the Wyoming institutions of 7, those are community colleges, came together. They implemented separately, but they did economies of scale through their training. They all bought at the same time. I was around when the South Carolina Technical Colleges, 2-year institutions, all 12 of them, purchased the same day. They implemented separately, but they also benefited from when they all went to SQL at the same time. They benefited from the shared training. They implemented at the same time. They did a lot together. The North Carolina Community College system, 58 schools, I was around when they did their implementation. At the time of these, we didn't have a cloud system. We didn't have a shared type of system. But what they did is they still had economies of scale because they knew it was the right thing to do. So today, the North Carolina Community College system is looking at a SaaS model. All of these institutions, Wyoming's looking. Every single month, we hear from institutions that are part of either a loose consortium or a state consortium, or they're calling us monthly, and they're saying, how can we save money? So we don't have anybody as far as you are, as far ahead as you are in the thinking stage and the evaluation stage of our SaaS model. And so that's why we have Jeff Ray come down here. He's very motivated too. We need some people to step up with the modern technology to be the first. Now, we know it's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to take a while because any consortium, as you can imagine, is going to take a while. So that's why I'm here today. That's why our Vice President, Josh Dietrich, is going to be here next week. Jeff Ray is going to be back, hopefully in June, to meet with the council and your presidents. We just have to keep our doors open and you know, communicating, because that's how we're going to make sure it works. And then if you know, we just need to keep the lines of communications open, is my thoughts.